This is a 2017 Acura ILX. This is my rental vehicle for the next day or so. I rented this car from Turo, which I'm using for the first time. This is a base model, doesn't have any option packages on it. It's a little dirty, and I promise I did not do this. But, whoops. This is running on Michelin Pilot all-season tires. Michelin Pilot HX MXM4. These are 215/45 R17 tires. I hear a boxer engine behind me. Let's go ahead and climb in. Yep, BRZ. So here we are inside the ILX. This is white with the black interior. One of my favorite color combos. Push button start. Here's the key. Foot on the brake. This is a version of the K24 engine. It's the 2.4 liter direct injection, 201 horsepower, so very similar to the 9th generation Civic Si. I do believe the ILX shares a chassis with that 9th generation Honda Civic. This is the refreshed version, obviously, and this is the only power plant option for the car. Before, there was a 2 liter, which was kind of an anemic power plant with a 5-speed automatic. There was the 2.4 with a 6-speed manual, which was basically a luxurious Civic Si. And then there was also a hybrid, if I'm not mistaken. But this 2017 model is only available with this 2.4 direct injection and the 8-speed DCT transmission. It's a dual clutch. These are actually leatherette seats, believe it or not. They feel high quality, and they definitely fooled me into thinking that it's real leather until I looked it up. And one of the advantages of an Acura over a comparable Honda is the seat comfort and the supportiveness of the seats. I mean, these are excellent. I really like them. This also being a base model has no driver assistance tech. There's no adaptive cruise control or lane keep assist or anything like that. That's all part of the AcuraWatch package. This one doesn't even have blind spot monitor or rear cross traffic alert or like the Honda Lane Watch camera in the side mirror. So the only thing you get is this the little end of the driver's side mirror here is a little bit magnified, so you can see your blind spot a little bit better. I'll try to demonstrate that on the road. Also, this is not the A-spec model, so just a bread and butter ILX, so to speak. No tech package either. So this is very simple. It's just you have the one screen up here which has the clock and displays audio and everything like that. So you can play with all the settings here. As you can see, you can change the colors. I'll leave it on red. You can even upload pictures to have as the wallpaper up here, which is pretty neat. I've tried connecting my phone to the Bluetooth, but it doesn't seem to be working for some reason, so not sure what's up with that. But this is much more easy to use than the 2-screen setup that would be in the, I think it's the technology package or something like that. A lot of the other Acuras and a lot of the Hondas have that too. Like the 9th generation Honda Accord, for example, had the 2-screen setup. And the critics blasted it for being kind of confusing and hard to use. But when you get a base model without the navigation, this is very simple. It's very familiar. It's just kind of old school. But if you don't mind that, then you might really like this. And while I'm on the topic of old school, like I said, this is based on a 9th generation Honda Civic. I would say that there's quite a bit of resemblance to the last Acura TSX in this car, which came out in 2009, and this is a 2017 model. Like the steering wheel, I believe, is the same as that TSX and the last Acura TL. This center stack reminds me quite a bit of the TSX. I think the TSX had even more buttons than this. So I think this is still fairly straightforward and easy to use. Down here is dual zone automatic climate control. The screen is up here and all the dials and buttons are down here. They all have a really nice feel to them when you push the buttons. Just high quality, no nonsense. That's pretty much what I would expect of Acura. Down here, yes, I still have an iPhone 5S, so that's why it looks so small. You have a tiny little storage compartment, and there is, as you can see, a USB connection, but this surprisingly looks like it's retrofitted. This doesn't look like it's from the factory, so I'm not sure if this is the way it comes or if the owner of this car put this in here like this. It does have 2-stage heated seats for both the front passenger. You do get a multi-angle backup camera. As you can see, this is the wide view, and you push this button here to change the view. That's the normal view, and you also get a top-down view. So this is the same as what's in the new Accord and obviously a lot of other Honda and Acura products. As I said, this is the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. It does have a sport mode. It does have paddle shifters, excuse me. I'll demonstrate that later. You do get an actual handbrake for a parking brake. It's not an electronic switch. It's not a pedal. So this is kind of refreshing to see. Cup holders and center console. As you can see in here, there is an auxiliary input and a power outlet, but like I said, the USB input is up here, and this looks like it's retrofitted, so I'm wondering if this doesn't come standard with it. Anyway, I'm not too terribly familiar with the audio system on this car, but you know, it does have a pretty decent sound. Nothing that's gonna blow your socks off, but it's pretty good. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, that'll bring up what's on your iPod if you have the USB plugged in. And then that's Bluetooth streaming audio. So this is pretty easy to use, kind of old school, but pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and jump on the road and take it for a spin. This does have LED headlights, which is nice. Oh, one more thing. Glove box is a pretty decent size, felt lined. Rearward visibility, as you can see, is just okay at best. It's not great. There's kind of a big blind spot, especially with that little piece of trim there, the way the rear side doors are designed. And the back window is kind of small, and you can't really see the deck lid of the car, so you kind of have to rely on the backup camera. But anyway, the blind spot monitor would help with that if you opt for that package. So let's go ahead and jump on the road. In terms of interior space, this is, for me, a 6'4" guy. This is about as small as I could live with on a day-to-day basis for like a daily driver car. I just say that because I'm used to mid-size cars or larger. Now, one thing I'm immediately noticing, and I noticed this the second I started driving it, and you can probably hear it now, when you're just driving around like in a parking lot like this, when you first take off, right around 1700 RPM, there's a vibration. There's some weird noise. It's like a rattle, grinding sound. I thought it was the transmission because dual clutches they can be kind of notorious for making those sounds, but as you can see, the car's in neutral and is still making that sound. So I'm not sure if that's an exhaust issue or what, but here we go. So with the transmission in just regular drive mode, it's pretty economical. It shifts up into its higher gears as quick as it can. There are no drive mode selectors like any buttons or anything, but this feels like it's more of an economy setting than a performance setting. All right, let's count the gears as we upshift, accelerating lightly. First, there's second, There's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7. So as you can see, if you accelerate lightly, the engine doesn't have to work very hard and it just upshifts as soon as it can. When you're in drive, you can take over control with the paddles, like so. And there's 8. So yeah, these are kind of lousy road conditions to be testing the driving dynamics, but I can talk a little bit about what I've experienced. As I said, the seats are very comfortable, so I really like them, and they're really in a class above what you would get in any comparable Honda product. Like a fully loaded Civic isn't going to have seats that are as good as in this car. The ride is definitely on the firm side, being that this is a compact. It's not bone jarring, but it is kind of on the stiff side, and over bumps and uneven pavement, it is a little bit bouncy. But again, like I said, I'm just used to driving mid-size or larger vehicles, so this is just a little bit foreign to me. That being said, this is also really the first car I've spent any amount of time with that has a dual clutch transmission. And, you know, it's different, but it seems pretty good. I want to say this is the same transmission in the 4-cylinder Acura ILX. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, hopefully we can find a stretch of road where we can test out the sport mode, because that really changes the dynamic of how this car drives. Okay, we can't really turn right here. That's not a street. This 2.4 liter engine moves this car out very well. This is a compact car, compact sedan, so to compare apples to apples, the 9th generation Honda Civic came standard with a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder, which had significantly less power, and also had the CVT transmission in the later models. But this has 201 horsepower, so this is basically the same as the old 6-speed ILX, the pre-refreshed model, and also the same as the Honda Civic SI, the 9th gen. Now, let's pop it into sport mode. As you can see, it kicks down a couple gears. So this is basically like changing, if this car did have drive modes, this would be like putting the car into sport mode. It doesn't do anything to the steering, obviously, it just changes the transmission behavior. And when you brake aggressively, it downshifts all on its own and it blips the throttle and rev matches. Really makes this car way more sporty and a pleasure to drive. But as you can see, you know, for, whoa. VTEC. Yeah, and especially since this is a naturally aspirated engine, it really encourages you to rev it all the way up to the red line. It's totally different from Honda's current turbo engines, where, you know, especially the 2-liter engine, it's just a kick in the pants once you hit 2,000 RPM, basically. But again, this is totally an appropriate power plant for this car. You know, it doesn't need a V6. It's fine without a turbo. If I drop it back down into sport mode, I'll demonstrate the paddle shifters. Now, let me turn off this air conditioning for a second. So as you can see, when you upshift, the shifts themselves are pretty lightning quick, but there is, as you can see, a little bit of a delay between when you pull the paddle and when the transmission actually shifts. It's a little bit laggy, but not horrible. Downshifts, however, are pretty responsive and they happen pretty quick. Steering feel in this car is pretty good. Let's see if I can take this corner hard. Yeah, wheel spin because of the rain. Yeah, pretty impressive stuff here. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about is the road noise in this car. It's going to be kind of hard to tell with, you know, these crappy weather conditions and the rain and everything. But Hondas in general are not really known for their quiet ride. However, when you step into an Acura, like if you get into a TL or a TLX after an Accord, or if you get into this ILX after a Civic, you know, you will notice that it is a bit more isolated and the road noise is a little bit more hushed. I wouldn't say that this has Lexus levels of isolation. It just isn't an isolation chamber like, say, a Lexus IS or something like that. But again, this car retails for under $30,000. So pretty quick. You can see when you're just coasting, it seems like the transmission kind of disengages because the engine is basically idling right now. Oh yeah, this just reminded me of that. The brakes, last thing I'm going to mention. The brakes feel great in this car, but the only thing that takes some getting used to is the initial bite is very aggressive. So the brakes are quite grabby. It just takes a little bit of getting used to use them smoothly. But the feel is there. Yeah, excellent brakes. I mean, that little low speed stop doesn't tell you a whole lot, I know, but something worth mentioning. Ooh, this is deep water. Let's get out of that. And let's go ahead and all right. So that's the Acura ILX. Go ahead and show you the trunk real quick. Pardon all my luggage and instruments, but it's not huge, but it's usable for my trip. Oops. Back seat is pretty tight. Both of these seats are all the way back. So I tried climbing in here, but I didn't fit. I'm 6'4". This is a manual passenger seat. I didn't realize that until now. I wonder if higher option packages give you a power passenger seat. Center console. Don't worry, I'm not an alcoholic. This is just what I carry around my GoPro in. So again, this is the 2.4 liter. I think this is basically the Earth Dreams engine, or a version of it, the K24. Cool. So there you have it.